the quiet language of her heart. A story of what she couldn't say, but always showed. Ethan wasn't the kind of guy who looked for signs. He was logical, straightforward, practical. But lately, something had been tugging at him. A quiet presence, like a song he didn't know he remembered, playing just low enough that he couldn't catch the lyrics, but loud enough to feel it under his skin. Her name was Lila. They'd worked in the same department for nearly a year. Just colleagues, technically. Not close. Not distant. She was polite, soft-spoken, always helpful but never too involved. She never flirted. Never lingered. And yet Ethan had begun to feel something, not in what she said, but in everything she didn't. At first, he thought it was just him. Misreading things. Seeing patterns that weren't there. But then he started noticing things. When he passed by her desk, she'd always straighten up a little. Once, he looked over and saw her quickly tuck a loose strand of hair behind her ear, her fingers fidgeting with the ends nervously, but her eyes had flicked toward him like they wanted to look longer, and couldn't. And there were those glances. They were never obvious, never held long enough to be called a stare. But they came like shadows, brief, quiet, and always disappearing the moment he turned to look. And yet, he knew they were there. It became clearer during lunch breaks. Lila would always join the group late, quietly slipping into a seat, not next to him, never that bold, but near. Close enough to listen. And when others laughed or spoke loudly, she'd smile gently, her eyes often drifting to Ethan when no one noticed. She never spoke much to him directly unless it was work-related. But one day, Ethan mentioned offhandedly that he loved black coffee, no sugar, no cream. A small comment. A throwaway detail. 2 weeks later, she brought in a small tray of homemade muffins for the team. "Just thought I'd try baking," she said shyly. Everyone reached for one, but Ethan noticed that next to the tray, there was a separate cup, a paper coffee cup, unmarked. He picked it up and took a sip. Black. No sugar. No cream. He glanced at her. She was pretending not to watch. But he caught it, just for a second. Her eyes flicked up, searching his face, and when he smiled, she immediately looked away, cheeks turning faintly pink. That's when he knew. Lila liked him. But she was never going to say it. Not out loud. Not the way some women did, confident and clear, unafraid to take the lead. Lila wasn't like that. Her feelings were gentle, like petals that closed the moment they were touched too harshly. Still, feelings don't stay hidden forever. They escape in glances, in nervous laughs, in the way someone fixes their shirt when you walk in, in how their voice gets quieter but their presence stronger. Ethan started watching her more closely, not to invade her space, but to understand the language she clearly wasn't ready to speak. He noticed how her voice changed when she addressed him, just a slight tremble, softer than when she spoke to others. How her smile lingered longer if he laughed at something she said. How once, When another female coworker playfully touched his shoulder, Lila's expression shifted for a moment, something tight and quiet behind her eyes. She didn't say anything, just looked down at her hands for the rest of the meeting. And perhaps the most telling sign of all, she remembered things no one else did. He once casually mentioned that his mother's birthday was coming up and he was nervous about picking the right gift. A full month later, Lila approached him in the hallway and, in a hesitant voice, said, "Hey, remember you said your mom liked orchids? There's this flower shop near the park that specializes in them." He hadn't remembered saying that. But she had. That wasn't just kindness. That was care. That was attention. That was someone who liked him deeply, but was afraid of being too seen. And maybe that's what love looked like sometimes. Not loud. Not bold. Just quiet. Careful. Gentle. But present in 1,000 invisible ways. One rainy Friday, Ethan waited near the building entrance, pretending to scroll on his phone. He'd seen Lila leave late the last few weeks, always waiting until most people were gone. He didn't know what he was going to say, but he knew he didn't want her to keep thinking she had to hide. She finally stepped into the lobby, umbrella clutched in her hand, cardigan drawn tightly around her shoulders. Their eyes met. She froze slightly, like she always did, and then gave a tiny nod. "Hey," he said, stepping forward. "Hi," she replied, voice soft. He paused, heartbeat uncertain. "I was thinking," he began, trying to sound casual, "I haven't had black coffee with someone who bakes amazing muffins. Think we could fix that?" She blinked, confused for a moment. Then the meaning sank in. Her lips parted just slightly, and she smiled, one of those small, shy smiles that held more weight than the boldest declarations. "I'd like that," she said. And in that moment, nothing else needed to be said. Because she'd already said everything, not in words, but in all the quiet ways she had loved him from the shadows. Sometimes, the loudest confessions really are the quietest actions. Have you ever experienced love like that? Where someone didn't say much, but their eyes, their silence, their gentle presence, said everything? Thank you for spending this time with us. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Don't Give Up. Let's continue exploring life's challenges and insights together.